So we are recording.
Cool.
And I guess we just start dry. We don't have any real intro.
Yeah,
We're very
no
professional
lube.
like
Just
that.
get
Yeah,
right in there.
we're going to go. So yeah, we're going to get started. Welcome to another episode of Please Feel Free. We have a fantastic guest here with us today. We have... what do you want your last name? Ciara. We have Ciara.
Yeah, I mean, my artist name is Ciara Leah, so...
Ciara Leah. We have Ciara Leah. Let's do that, because if there's crazy people listening, we don't want them trying to look you up and stuff. And...
Well, you can come on my music platform and write awful things in my comments, and I'll just block and delete you.
Do you get that often?
No.
Oh, okay, yeah, because
No.
You don't seem like the kind of musician that would get like hate mail or death threats.
No. I mean, Facebook is a little bit more like the Wild West than Instagram, I find personally. But
yeah, I mean, I'm really starting to have a hard time distinguishing between the two. It feels like they're both very, well, they are the same, aren't they? Facebook owns Instagram. Zuckerberg bought it. Yeah.
I think it's just sort of like the predominant media. So like Facebook is more like it feels more like a soapbox than
Yes, it's more text-based.
Opinionated.
Yeah. It's text-based. It's
it's a different demographic too.
Yeah.
Slightly different.
I guess so. Yeah, it's almost like one generation before.
Yeah. So Facebook is a little bit older generation. Instagram is
I never looked at it
and then
that
TikTok is like before
the new kids.
the new kids.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. So there is.
Wait, can we intro? Let's get a little bit of background of.
Well, yeah, we'll get
are.
into it. Okay, so you are a musician.
Yes,
But you're not just a musician.
Not just a musician. I'm also a mother, and I am
Of how many?
I have 2 children currently.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Welcome. They're a dying breed, children.
Oh gosh.
Especially in the future.
Well, yes, but you walk downtown Toronto and everyone's got a dog, not a kid.
Yes,
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I read something recently that said dogs are replacing kids.
Yeah, I
Because
think
they're that entry level.
There's a number of reasons I think that
They're
saying
easier
that.
to, I guess, abort later on in life.
Shorter lifespan.
Yeah, you go, I'm tired of this
You can just kind of dump
thing.
them in a shelter
Yeah.
if you go away.
Yeah. You could put a dog on Craigslist. You can't put a kid on Craigslist.
Yeah, that's kind of messed up, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But imagine that. Imagine you had to just keep the dog. If you were like, I can't deal with this dog, and they're like, you have to. You want
I mean, that's what you do with children.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
Yeah,
Should
well.
be. Make people think a little more before.
So we're all vegans here. So like, what do you have like a vegan perspective on like pet ownership, or I guess that's not the correct term in the vegan community. It would be what is it? I don't know. Do you guys follow the?
No.
I guess it would be pet.
Pet slavery.
Well, it's not pet. Like even the word pet.
Yeah.
Pet slavery. You're putting them
It's a
into
small friend.
You're putting them into bondage.
For our fur family or
fur
Fur
family.
family. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I personally. Okay, as of late, I've been warming up to the idea of a dog.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to understand the whole. I'm beginning to look at it differently. Like I see it now as man's best friend.
Yeah.
I see it as like I had this thing where I realized that the dog backwards is God.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's like just this creature that's always watching, that sort of sees everything. That, you know what I mean? It's
Unconditional loving.
Yeah, and they're unconditionally loving. They're not good nor bad. It's kind of on the thing.
Oh
and
no! Some dogs, you open the door and they run and they don't come back.
For sure.
So,
but even in that, I don't
that's
blame
more like
them.
a free love. Right?
Yeah,
It's
I
like
don't
they just love
blame them.
everybody equally.
Yeah.
So I'm not against it, but I do feel that I do disagree with pet ownership from the angle of, like, I grew up with lots of different pets. I've had like weird pets and regular pets. I've had birds. Birds is always cruel to me because you go, man, this thing could be anywhere in the world,
Right.
and you just snip its wings and shove it in a cage, and then it's like, it can't fly, and that's its whole purpose. And then even other things like big dogs, I would hate to put a dog like in a house like this, where it's always, just kind of wants to get out and do its thing.
I saw a woman in a wheelchair, and I just always feel bad for those dogs because they're always like tied to the wheelchair. Like they can never go faster than their owner's ability. And so it's like they're forced to live. Like he made me look at it differently because I was always a big pet. I've always had a lot of pets. But it's like they're forced to live your life, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, is that fair?
The only thing I would add to that, though, is because dogs are, domesticated and used to sort of walking alongside humans, there's an argument that that they, well, I mean, like even if you look at Viktor Frankl, like what is the most important thing in life, and it's not happiness but purpose, and that I think is true to animals as well, as like having some kind of purpose, or like serving, that's why there are service dogs as well.
Right. That's a great way to put it. That's I guess the feeling I have towards it too, where if that's why I'm developing a bond towards it. I could see that. I see the importance of a dog being able to protect you, right? Because they will, like, from a place of service, they will, no questions asked. If someone points a gun at you, people will hesitate. A dog won't be like, oh shit, he's got a gun. A dog will just go for it and be like, this is danger. I know to stop this. I like that. I like that idea of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Did you watch that?
I think I. Yes.
The Tarantino,
yes,
remember at the end where the dog saves the day? Yeah. That after I walked out of that theater and I was like, you know what? A pet dog's not so bad, man. That could really come in handy.
I mean, the other side of it though is that, this is sort of the romanticized version of having a pet. There's also, like we discussed before, what do you do when you get a delinquent pet that just like pees everywhere and you can't, because there's, the philosophy that every sentient being kind of has its own, it's their own life's path, their own life's journey. And they're gonna, dog's gonna dog however that looks, right?
I wonder how much is like nature versus nurture type thing. Like, do they take on their owner's energy and then just their owner's shitty? So but
sometimes
shitty.
In unexpected ways, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like a balance, and sometimes it's like an amplification or something. You know what I mean?
And sometimes, I had that. I was walking down the street a couple weeks ago, and everything was fine. But I saw this girl coming up, walking towards me. Young girl, she had a mask on, she was walking her dog, and I'm no mask, I'm free to breathe. And coming closer to her, I'm a horrible person. And coming closer to her, I could see that she starts getting a little more like she's starting to tighten up, like she's starting to get a little squirmy, just because you're like narrow sidewalk, mouth breather, and you're like starting to get nervous. And then the dog just, like, I saw it go kind of into the leash. Yeah. And then the dog, for no reason, bit me as I was walking by it. And then she's, like, pulling on the dog. And she's like, what are you doing? Yelling at the dog. And I'm like, that's all you. You did that.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I can say, like, for sure about animals is that they are just very energy driven.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think, especially for people that are very empathic, the connection between... with an animal is really strong. I mean, I kind of feel that off you guys, that you're very like empathic, people, energy driven.
No, I have no empathy. No. Sorry. I feel nothing
we're all
for
horrible
nobody.
People here. We hate humanity.
I can't stand it. I can't stand everything. I hate everybody so much so that I refuse to eat anything that's alive.
Right.
I can't stand it. No, I do, and you know what? Now I also find myself. Like I grew up Catholic. Like I was brought up Catholic. It's not that I didn't participate in it often, but I grew up on it. Yeah. And it was
like
always and it was always bullshit to me, right? It was always a bad drug. But now as I've just started to look at life differently, I'm starting to notice a lot more just important stories, I guess, that are very relatable to life in general. So it's not like I wouldn't say I'm more Catholic now, but I do find some solace in a lot of the lessons it was trying to teach.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the things is that kind of like that always stuck with me is that man was given dominance over the animals. So I do feel like there is this. I don't like saying dominance, but I do feel like there is the ability for man to bond and woman to bond with all creatures. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a Garden of Eden type thing. Like I really do think that there's if you see lion trainers where you go, they walk in, they're relaxed, they're not worried, lion jumps on them, they're fine, they're playing around with it. You go, I think that's manageable with everything. Well, I think everything has that.
I think it comes back to this whole idea of like with power comes responsibility, right? So if you are like, do you abuse that power? I think that's the wrong message. You can spin that one of two ways, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, I'm more powerful and more dominant. My forebrain is more developed than this creature, so that means I can have my way with you for my own.
Right. Yes,
but
yes.
It goes much deeper than that.
No, I think it needs to be a mutual connection because I guess you know what it is too. If we have some level of spirit to us, in us, some soul, something that keeps us moving, they have to have it too.
Yeah.
I used to disconnect from that. I used to think that animals couldn't feel emotion and didn't have that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I've come to learn that was a very ignorant point of view.
Like, where do you think that came from? Would you say it's like a manufactured kind of point of view or socialized?
I would say so, yeah. Because I grew up with a very scientific, methodical way of looking at things, almost like machine-like, I guess, right? Okay. Everything had to have this flow chart. So if you see something, whatever it is, you go, if it doesn't fit into this flow chart, then it doesn't work.
Right.
It wasn't until psychedelics helped kind of break the mold and get me out of that. That was I guess a primary factor. But then after that, it was the rest of it comes from my own trying to piece it together, trying to make sense of everything, and just trying to look at everything I thought I knew, and just trying to flip it. And then you see that there's a lot of middle ground in between those two extremes, right? Because now I used to believe that science had the answers for a lot of things because you're taught that in school, and school makes you, kind of indoctrinates you into that.
Yeah. Science is a tool, when it becomes a belief system, then it becomes scientism, which is like a religion.
Right? Yes. So, and I could always see it as that.
Yeah.
I could always see it as a religion, and I would always get into those debates with people just to be like, because even though I was on board with it, that was my religion, so to speak. I still saw it as like, if you weren't in this club, then you're like, you're the outsider because you don't think this way, and then therefore you can't, you're wrong with what you come to the table. It is.
Yeah.
It is, and I think a lot of it has to do with that. I think it is very westernized and I guess patriarchal, like science. Wasn't that they used to show that on television? If you remember those heritage moments, where it was like a Canadian woman that had to bust down the door and like rip off the leaf that showed the genitals, and then she was all, don't be ashamed to say it just because a woman. That sort of thing. It is very elitist, and it's funny too because when you look at things historically, I've come to learn that the Egyptian times, they put art and science in the same boat. You couldn't do one without the other.
Absolutely. And I was going to say that for me, music feels like the bridge.
Yes.
Because coming from a science background, just to continue the introduction, I guess, as just kind of.
Yeah, we didn't even get to that.
It's cool.
2 kids.
We'll just,
Wait, do you have
organically
a dog?
unfold.
Yeah, do you have a dog? We were talking dog owners.
I did have animals in the home growing up. I think at this point in my life, it's just like, so I had a cat when the children were very young, and it was like, I'm vacuuming the carpet, like down on my hands and knees every night. And it's just like a lot of extra stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Hairless cat.
And then also, because I'm a musician, I like to, not so much now, but I like to travel, and it's when you have a pet, there's lots of logistical things to consider.
Yes.
So I think it's just, logistics that have sort of stopped me mainly from having pets right now. But I did grow up with animals, and I do. Yeah, I mean, they
got to be bigger pets.
What's that?
Bigger pets, costlier pets too.
No, it's different because I think time's all connected, right? So
yes,
it's like with an animal. There's like an animal stays basically as like a 4-year-old its whole life. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, there's a sense when I had children that I connected to them as grown individuals. So I've always kind of spoken to them and dealt with them in a similar manner. Hopefully I don't get shamed by their parents for this, but I dealt with them like, I mean, obviously there's developmental things that change from when they're born and through, 6 months this happens, and 2 years, and but in terms of just like philosophically connecting to like a sentient being, I connect to like the child as like a whole human. Like, so it's like, I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's like a dog, like the wholeness of a dog, which is what, about a dozen years, you know, is more limited than the wholeness of a child, which, you know, can be like 100 years, you know, and so you're taking in the whole energy of the being.
Right.
So there's something psychologically that is different, even though like at any given time point, like it's like dealing with an infant is much like has different challenges than dealing with like a 13-year-old child. But I've always kind of connected to that big picture. And so it's made dealing with the infant stage more or less challenging because in my mind it's like I know it's like you know this was it's going in a direction,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is making sense, but
no, totally.
I try to do the same. I try to treat kids as I wanted to be treated at that age. Like I just put myself there. I was there, and then so I don't like I just kind of I don't know, man. Kids are very easy to deal with for me. They're not a difficult thing because I just look at that and I go, well, if this was an adult, what are you doing? What are you?
Yeah. And they grasp so much more than we even like. It bothers me. It doesn't bother me, but I get when people baby kids so much. It's like they really understand because they understand energy too. So they really know, even if they can't like speak full
energy.
Yeah, exactly. You know? It's like they get what you're trying to portray or like come across as, you know.
And that's what I'm saying about music being the bridge. So like coming from 6 years studying in an institution, 2 science degrees later.
What is your background? We just talked about that in person, but what?
Yeah, I got a bachelor in science at the University of Toronto, specialist in physiology, and then I did a master's degree at McMaster University in physiology, but I focused on sort of molecular biology techniques.
And you had to do a thesis for that? Correct?
Yeah, I had. So it was a research-based master's degree. I defended a thesis at the end of it. I came out with 5 peer-reviewed publications. So
wow,
that's amazing. And what was the thesis on?
So it was on the HGF, which is hepatocyte growth factor. So the activation of satellite cells in humans. So it was the first human study that looked at the role of a liver protein on how it affects muscle-specific stem cells following exercise.
Wow.
And this has been a number of years since I've been in this, so don't quiz me too hard on the details.
So your science is rusty on it?
I mean...
That's okay. I mean, man, I can't
we wouldn't even know how to question that.
I don't have that sort of expertise.
But it was interesting that we studied that because it just points to, how holistic our systems operate. Like the manner in which they operate is very holistic. So I'm studying a protein that's manufactured in the liver and looking at how that impacts your muscle growth. You know, and this is how the body works, you know, and these are things, this is why we have side effects with drugs, right? It's because you can't impact one part of the system without impacting another part. And it all kind of works harmoniously and there's redundancies in the system. You know, so it's like having that kind of background just constantly makes me ask questions whenever I'm presented with anything that's, any new information.
Are you able to? Did that help you perceive, or maybe like more or less? Do you think that the human is the perfect machine then? Or can be, at least.
What do you mean?
Like if the
by
human's running
machine?
well, if the human is, if the liver's doing everything right, if we're not on drugs, if we're not on this, if we're not on that, then is this just like this self-healing, repairing machine? Do we need science? Do you know, like, do we need it? Because we've been around forever. We've been around before science.
I mean, the problem is that we've kind of formed a codependent relationship with science because we've tampered with our environment so much that it's not, you know what I'm saying? It's like you can't.
It's almost like everything we're doing is trying to cover up the damage we've done.
It's like the old woman that swallowed the fly or swallowed the spider to catch the fly and then swallowed the...
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly.
Take this drug, use these side effects.
Well, and that's how pharmaceuticals make their money. It's like, take this drug and then take this drug for the side effects and then take this one to, because now you've messed up this because of the first drug.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just watched something. We just watched this guy, Dr. Zach Bush, and he mentioned this stuff about basically like chemical farming is what really like kind of nuked our systems, because he was saying a lot of it also had to do with soil erosion.
Oh gosh,
because of everything we did, we stopped paying attention to. We're just like, don't worry, you could just pour chemicals on it, and now it'll be fine.
Yeah,
and it's
and
sort
now
of
we're
leaked
losing
into everything.
We're losing like critical DNA within the food.
Absolutely.
That we need, that we get like amino acids that we need specifically from the food we eat. And now they're missing these, particular things. And so we're eating like incomplete nutrition.
See, and I think the body knows that, because I could never explain bad fruit to people where you just know like it's ripe, it lacks something. It doesn't have the right flavor. I go, man, I remember this tasting different, and I know it's not me.
Yeah.
But it's like you get these cases of fruit where you go, man, there's just something lacking in this. It's like the flavor got pulled out, but everything else is there. It's bigger. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But there would just be something instant where I go, man, there's something off about this, but you could never pinpoint it. There was never anything where you go, oh, I know it's because the soil's dry, they're chemicaling it. And, but now you are that bridge, science and art.
Yeah. Well, and I think everything, we are designed to be all connected, right? So if you believe that there is one, the greatest or the one highest creator of all things, then we all kind of came from the same place and we're all connected. Even if you believe just, in science and frequencies and physics,
right?
Everything is connected, and I think the point where we reach problems is when there's any point of disconnect. Connection is flow. If you think of the stagnation of streams, what happens?
Yeah.
Right.
The stagnation of anything, right? Yeah. There needs to be movement. There needs to be flow for life to occur. A shark stops swimming and it dies.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I get that feeling a lot. I feel like a shark many times where you go, man, if I just sit here and do nothing, you see what it does to people even. So you could see, like, I could see the very powerful effect putting people in isolation would do. I mean, shit, they do it in prison, right? You do it in prison. If someone's a prisoner, you throw them in the cell and you go, now you're in isolation, you're in solitary confinement.
They're using all the jail terms now.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy? Crazy
absolutely.
Psychology.
That's right.
Yeah. Lockdown.
So true.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Everything is very.
And unless you're like so focused within, like unless you have the knowing to do that, and you can then survive, and even you can be okay, and you might be even great. But unless you know to do that, like you will really suffer.
Well, I mean, that's what I've been doing and what I'm telling to anybody. And I understand that everybody kind of has a different system of beliefs, but for me, it's, my faith is important. And, I grew up in an Anglican church, but I'm not a practicing Anglican or anything.
Now,
but
I'm always curious about this stuff. I'm so ignorant to a lot of it because I just grew up Roman Catholic, Catholic school, all that stuff. What is Anglican?
So it's the Protestant church. So basically, and I'm not a theologian here, so.
No, I know, but just like from what you grew, like how much different would it be?
It's Catholic is much more strict. Yeah, there was communion, but there's no confession. Confirmation is not really pushed that hard.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit looser, a little bit more, come and go as you please.
Can the priest get married?
Can the priest?
Were they able to have wives?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. See,
I was baptized Anglican, but never went to an Anglican church.
See, the churches I went to, the priest was always a dude that could never touch or think of a woman nude.
Yeah.
Which is why you probably get so many.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's a job opening.
Yeah. It's not Anglican priest we're hearing about.
No, but that's right. So that's what I'm always interested by those, like, because I think those little differences make a big difference, right? Like that's a big impact on the whole, where you go, you're just not.
Yeah.
How many Anglican, what is it? Is it pastors? Are they pastors?
Yes.
Are they priests? Yeah. See, I don't know what the difference is. Maybe priesthood is just.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Does it call her priest? I think so.
Priest.
Okay.
Our pastor of the church. Yeah, priest.
Yeah, we would always.
I'm used to both of those terms.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if priest was where you give it all up.
But that's I've been telling people just like to just stay connected, whatever that means. For me, it means like keeping my faith strong and like not trying to attach too much to anything. I think we try to sort of control things that we can't control, and that gets us into trouble. So there is a certain degree of abandon that you need to accept. To feel peace. Yeah. I was watching something. It was a video about like letting go of negative emotions, or like how to, and he was talking about different frequencies and different like sort of states of being. And so he was saying at the very bottom of the ladder is apathy. So not caring about anything at all. And then to rise up out of that, like a slightly higher frequency would be depression, fear, lust, rage. And then to rise up out of that, then it's peace, acceptance, courage, and at the very top, love. Mm-hmm. So whenever I'm going through some stuff, like I always think, okay, how can I be more accepting? What sort of things can I do to achieve peace? Or what have I already sought out to achieve peace? What are some courageous, what can I do that's courageous? Yes. And ultimately from a place of love.
Right.
So that always kind of recenters me or rebalances me or keeps me connected. And, these are connective forces,
how often would you say you lose that connection?
On
on a daily basis.
It's
a regular.
Okay. It's ebbs and flows, right?
That's very profound that you say that too, because if you just kind of look at everything, like the societal impact that's going on right now, it's almost like if you look back on time a bit, it almost seems like we came from a place of lust. Like the society was focused on that primarily. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, then we went through, I guess, the depression you said it was. Now we're in the fear stage. Yeah. So then it's almost like...
a lot of rage mixing in and out of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of rage.
And then we just have to almost get to this... Do we get to this point of apathy before we're able to rebound back, or can we avoid it?
I think you kind of bounce back and forth. Know what I'm saying? And it's like... I've noticed different people, their behaviors kind of bounce in different directions. So, apathy is sort of like the deepest form of depression, right? Yeah. And I see like some of my depressed friends, expressing rage, outrage at certain things, or, feeling sadness. And to me, I'm thinking like, geez, those are such low vibrating frequencies, but it's like, no, they've just lifted themselves out of apathy. So that's great. Right. Wow. So it's like everything's relative.
Right.
Yes. And then that from there, they can get to a place of courage, or, you can kind of coax people to the different
Don't
levels.
You feel they need to have those things then? Because you can't also not experience apathy and expect to know total empathy.
Well, it was in that same video, and forgive me, I can't remember who the gentleman was, but I don't, to me, like all ideas are derivative anyway.
Yeah. We're not fact checking you.
But he was saying that when you are like in a lower vibration, whatever that may be, to sort of meditate on these things, like how have I been accepting today? Like even just accepting that I'm apathetic,
right?
And that like helps to bring you out. Like, how have I been peaceful? Or like, I say to some of my friends that are experiencing depression, it's like, I just want to sleep. It's like, oh, I remind them, I'm like, oh, you just want to find some peace. You know, just planting that
deep
seed,
rest.
you know, and then it kind of changes it. It's like, no, I'm not being unproductive. I'm not being, you know, whatever it is. I'm trying to find peace for myself.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a much better feeling than just like, oh, I'm not doing anything and everything's worthless. And you know what I'm saying?
That's right. What a good
So it's
reminder.
like, how do you like reframe things?
Yes.
You know, or it was courageous of me to get out of bed today because like, look what's going on in the world.
Right.
So,
You know?
That's very profound.
Yeah.
So that's
it's
stuck
very
with me,
relatable.
and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
peace, acceptance, courage, love. Peace, acceptance, courage, love. You know, just try.
It's almost like the stages of grieving too.
Yeah.
But you're grieving about your own life.
Yes. Yeah.
And then at some point you just have to accept it, and then that's
Yeah.
when you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very.
And I feel like knowing when to act too, because it's like acting in, let's say, rage, you might do more damage. So it's almost like, accept it and then be with yourself instead of maybe like projecting that outwards until you can get to a place of love or, you know, peace.
Well, I posted something the other day, or it came up in my Facebook memories, and it was like, people, if you're feeling like road raging today, just stay home. Like, like if you're in that mood, like just like, don't project your stuff out. We're just stay home, chill, and then when you're ready to go out, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See,
and it's not just road rage. It's like it's like there's mask rage.
I sever road rage very easily. I'm triggered very easily on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I do too sometimes.
I mean, I am so about when I get in the car. There's few places I have in life that are like my fortresses of solitude, where that's where I get my peace from.
Yeah.
And driving around in a car for me is very peaceful.
Yes.
And all I try to do is go with the flow.
Yes.
And I just when the flow gets ruined, man.
Yeah.
Like, even you know what it feels like. Okay, from a music perspective, it feels like when you're in a groove that you just found some song and you're just like, man, everything's it's magic.
Yeah.
You're just seeing it come out, and then you hit that really few bad keys.
That's just jazz music.
Yeah, that's right.
Gotta improvise.
Hell
It's just jazz,
Yes.
man. You gotta.
You're giving
jazz is all about accepting, right? So it's like there are no wrong notes.
Exactly.
You know, it's like about what you play next.
But then, okay,
you know,
so then when I tap
How
into
you-
that road rage, you're just justifying my road rage. You're not toning it down. I was trying to look for peace, but it's like, I guess.
Or maybe not using rage because it's just the song.
Well, I never lash out at people, but I lash out with the car. Now the car moves different, right? Because now the car is like, you ruined my flow, and now it's doing its sax solo.
You know, my thought about road rage is he who is without driving infraction, cast the first stone. You know, it's like sometimes people be sitting there at the light too long or whatever, and they miss it, and I'm just like, I've done that before. I'm not gonna get mad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or it's like, you know,
I don't honk at that. I let people, and those honks are usually the double honk.
Yeah,
That's the one.
friendly.
That's
they need different honks, don't they?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because
I think so.
some car horns are super obnoxious too,
Yeah.
and it's like it's sending across the wrong message. It's like,
Yes.
I'm not mad. I do a friendly reminder. You know, the light change.
Yeah, hey, take a look up because I know you're on your phone. I can see you, and it's okay. I'm not mad. It's
or like
just
a thank
like
you horn.
yes,
You know,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I guess you do it by syllable, maybe.
Yeah, or just right.
Fuck you. Yeah, it really has to be.
Yeah.
So okay, so it's okay to have road rage. Yeah, I can accept that.
I think it matters more like how long you stay in the emotion, because it's like it's normal to feel anger and rage or frustration or whatever, but it's like how long do you, because you're only hindering yourself. You're only like making yourself ill in the long run, right?
Yeah.
No one else is feeling that, so it's just about, it's like, okay, it's fine to have a flash of anger, everyone has it, but how quick can you let it go?
How profound is that? And I mean, there's always the philosophy that it's not what happens to you in life, it's how you react to it, right?
Absolutely.
You know, like everything is really a green screen. Like if you were to pretend that none of this exists and you were just kind of experience what your body goes through on a daily basis, it'd be really interesting to watch. You know, be like, why is my body lighting up this way or behaving that way? And then you map it out versus the green screen, and then you compare it across different individuals, and people's maps would light up differently with the exact same experiences, or you know, so it all seems kind of arbitrary at the end of the day.
Right.
Like we are,
you know, like there's no universal
Yeah.
action that's going to lead to a universal reaction.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like we have that power to decide what that chain is going to be.
You choose which emotion you literally react to it. Like, because if you're good within, I mean, what really can bother you? Like, I mean, things can happen, but you just really are watching the show. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like self-mastery, right?
Yes, exactly.
But do you think everybody's capable of it? Let's take a look at the times. I think everybody's on an individual journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, some people almost have to follow others.
Yes.
Like they just can't.
Everyone has a niche, and everything has a purpose. You know, there's not one, ideal human setting. Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, even with destruction and construction, like even within the body, there's apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. Like cells need to break down, to prevent cancer even. Wow. Cells need to break down, they need to grow. This focus on progress and growth and moving forward and whatever. It's like, no, like you need to just, demolish a building before you build something better.
Right. It's you have to have the destroyer and the creator.
Gotta be, exactly.
Yes. I agree with that.
Balance.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like destruction always brings a new beginning.
Mm-hmm. Like forest fires,
exactly.
As long as they're not out of hand, which again comes back to our conversation of
right.
Is science applicable? It's like, well, we messed up with the natural flow thing. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard.
But it's almost like, sorry to interrupt, but it's almost like what's happening right now. It feels like everything is crumbling, everything's breaking down, but it needs to in order to start anew, in order to start fresh, because we can't just keep band-aiding over. Like this, obviously, this whole system does not work.
Absolutely.
So it all needs to crumble, and so. It seems like scary for people because they're trying to hold on to what was when it's. If you just accept, you can actually have a fun time during all this and enjoy it.
Man, you got to keep a sense of humor.
Yes.
I was saying that to my friend
disagree.
the other day because I was telling them about. I was telling them I was coming to see you and that you're a comedian, and I said that you give me a lot of levity on Facebook because like there seems to be a lot of doom and gloom and seriousness, and when you post something, you inject humor, and I like. That
I always worry that I'm too doom and gloom, like because I see a lot of it. I don't want to focus
humor
on it.
It's really dark, though.
I've come to accept that a long time ago, and I've been to those darknesses. Like I've experienced them, and if not directly, then either through just people I know that have, and if you can't laugh at. If you can't laugh at this shit, then you're really in trouble. Yeah. Because then it's like.
And to be clear, we're not laughing at people that have, that are
dying.
Going through. You know what I'm saying? It's just. Yeah.
No, I
comedy
feel
is
an energetic thing, right?
Yeah, it's transmuting dark to light.
Thank you.
But what I do worry about is I do worry sometimes that I do, because it's hard to post positive, because I also understand the human psychology to it too.
Yes.
I get the people that I'm reaching out. Yeah, there's nothing on Facebook that people are logging into every day where they're like, I need my peace and positivity, so I'm going to log into Facebook.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like that just doesn't. Even in those groups, like I don't believe there's a lot of truth in someone waking up and they're really spiritual and holistic and all that. Yeah. And the first thing they're like, Facebook. Yes. I'm going to get something good. I know the algorithms just giving me nothing but positivity because I'm positive. And
it's all about engagements. Is what Facebook is.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's a relief to hear that there's humor in it, because I do worry, man. Because I know the dangers in that too. I've had people tell me that, my jokes become real, and that was very scary to me because I joke around about a lot of things, and I don't want them to come real. My whole approach is you try to warn people about the things that you've experienced in life, but a lot of times, because I've been doing it for years now before any of this, this is funny to me because now it's like everybody's getting into conspiracies, and I've been there, done that. And now you're you see people at grade 1 and grade 2, and you're like, you guys have, there's still the college years of conspiracies that you gotta, so it's like, it's going to be a ride.
Conspiracy is really just two or more people come together with a shared you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
shared
impossible.
goals.
Right. That can't exist. Right?
We're
How is that
conspiring
possible?
right
No,
now.
Like what's going on mainstream is conspiracy. If you're
Yes,
I know
the biggest.
But a lot of times you get treated like Chicken Little.
Oh, absolutely.
It really is just like people are like, oh yeah, the sky's falling again. Sure. And you're like, okay, fine. I'm doing good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm fine. But it's like I see the people around me and I go, it's hard to not address that. Like homeless people, right? You can step over a homeless person only so many times before you're like, man, what's happening here? What's going on? What are we doing about this?
Yeah. It becomes too obvious.
It's but you see it in the city, especially. You see the way people go by and just and that's something that you have to try to warn people about. But the dangers of doing it through doom and gloom, like I think I've taken my year to really try to put that into perspective and focus, to not focus on that. I don't want to do a conspiracy podcast, even though I have the gusto for it. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to build a world around that. Yeah. So I've been trying to pull away from doom and gloom, but it's also like, but there's
that structure again, right? It's like if you're pulling certain people out of apathy, maybe that's the closest thing to them is what they know, like speaking them in a frequency that they would understand. Right. So it's just like, it's all about balance and placement. Yes. And for me, I try my best, especially as someone who's, I guess, an investigator or a creative, is to put out questions before anything else.
I love questions.
Like how what is going on here? Or or just placing something. Yeah. Like, what do you make of this? Yeah. I think, and it's easy to fall into the like, whatever, but which I do sometimes as well. But
well, I think you do a very good job of it too. It's funny how we're building worlds around these digital facades that we create. Because it is funny because still there is some people that stick out. You do still have you have very I didn't know that your background, you have a master's, you dealt with PCR. I never would have known that. Right. But it was
I've had people be like, I checked your profile, artist, I'm not listening to you. It's like, well, actually,
right, but there's something always to the artist. Yeah. The artist has something, because we have to take the information of what we see, of what we know, and we have to try to formulate it where it's edible to everybody, where they can it's palatable. They go, I can understand this.
Comedy is just like one of the most powerful vectors now. Yes. It comes back to what you're saying about ancient Egyptian culture and art and science being so, intimately connected. They're not separate. And I think we run into trouble when we try to separate them. And I think it's, even, during the Industrial Revolution, everything was compartmentalized and broken up so that nobody understood how the whole worked.
Right. You made specialists. You're a specialist. You know the best there is to know about this.
No, everything is connected. And if you don't understand how the whole works, how do you fully understand how the parts work?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So true.
Yeah, I've always found that odd. I've always found it odd and I've always been bothered by it where, that was one thing that bothered me. If people go, you look at a scientist's research and you go, they've spent their entire life just staring at a microscope, paperwork, microscope. And it's like, you do whatever. The best expert, 40 years? You do it for 40 years. You make your discovery. But then there's a dude that has traveled all over
lived
the world.
On the street for a period of
seen everything there is to see in the world.
Run a business at the top level. Man. Mingles with all people from all walks of life.
Yes. And then you go, but he doesn't have credentials. He's nothing and nobody. And you go, well, man, there's something more. Someone's seen some more. You know what I mean?
That's what they give out honorary degrees to some people for that reason. Like they haven't been to an institution, but it's like this guy just knows too much stuff. We got to give him an honorary PhD at the end of his life.
That's cool.
How do you get that? Where do I have to sign up? What do you got to do? I just have to talk long enough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy too because people will just look, like you said, look at your profile and sum you up and just be like, look, Yeah, I know you. I get you.
Yeah.
And it's like you have no idea.
That's the beauty of social media, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can just
I take it because you just think a certain way now, you're automatically all these other things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's
in the science, like do you still have people in the science community like on your page, and like how are they kind of?
I mean, one of my closest friends is a PhD candidate. I mean, there's.
You beat her to it.
Yeah, she or. I mean, not most of my friends are musicians now.
Yeah.
And I started a Facebook page. So like when I had children, I didn't have Facebook, and then when I moved back to Toronto and pursued music full time, I started a new page. So most of the people that follow me are musicians now, but I have like one or two here, and then I'll occasionally get people reach out in my DMs and that know my background and say no, they're afraid to kind of comment on posts, but they'll be like, if you have any information about this or that, would you mind sending it my way?
So they are very cautious to be.
There are a few people that DM me about stuff and be like, I agree with what you're saying. I just
you can't put it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know it too. I've had conversations where people have brought up stuff that I've posted, and I go, nobody, I know people don't like it. I know, because I know they don't want names popping up. You don't want your name being associated with a certain perspective. But when you really talk to people, I've been trying to do that a lot online too in general, where I just if I get into comments and comment wars with people, I'll try to corner them on a one-on-one.
Yes.
And their tone changes a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And not like I'm not trying to bully them and anything. I'm going, hey man, look, I really don't care what happens about anything, but just so you know, here's just something to consider. And people are they're a lot more open to it, than just going like, if you do the exact same thing but in a post. Because everybody
an ego
seems
battle
like
a lot of the time.
It seems like everybody's
people
pissing match.
Nobody's really trying to change their own opinion when they're getting in like a back, because then it's like all laid out and it's like, oh, I lost the argument and it's online, and like, you know what I'm saying? Like nobody wants to admit. I don't want to say defeat, but like
that's fine. I try to do that so much,
especially publicly.
And I understand. And then it's just like, is this really productive? Having but at the same time, it like kind of lays out different sides of a debate. It's
yes.
It more presents like a debate than an actual. Getting the bottom of something.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And if they're open to, I've had very few discussions online because it does always kind of just get to this one point where it's just people shouting digitally, which just doesn't work.
Keyboard gangsters.
Yeah. and man, I've known that.
I don't like that feeling. I don't like feeling like a keyboard gangster.
Yeah, I'm ready to challenge everyone to in-person discussion.
Absolutely.
I'll gladly sit down, have a conversation. I'm always open to it. But man, online nobody takes that up. Nobody is really brave enough to get back off the keyboard and go, have a sit down and try to talk about something, because you might learn something new.
Why do you think that is?
I don't. You know what?
Do you think that's part of the social engineering?
I do, because if we're talking McDonald's does fucking yellow to speed you up in the thing. Yeah. I've the one thing that's been so frightening for me is the one thing that I've managed to get, because I've confronted so many people because I have time now, and I've started recently viewing. I've talked to a few comedian friends, and it's like, what are you doing to get by? And they're just kind of like causing trouble. Right. So you go, okay, so what can I do to cause trouble? And I sometimes take these battles online, and I've fought, self-proclaimed. I've fought scientists, nutritionists, nurses, and I just get into it with them, and I let them have their gang war up on me, and I'm glad to. It's words, and I've been heckled at so many times in life that you're not going to catch me online with a heckle that. So the one thing that frightens me is I've scared so many of them away. Like they go, I won't block you, you block me, like childish shit. And I scare so many of them away when you accuse them of being paid by the by the bigwigs.
By the pharmaceutical
companies. Every single time I make that, it's just like,
wow.
I get blocked. Their comments get deleted.
Wow.
Like, it's very
money talks, man.
And again, I get that, especially like, look, if we're gonna, you know, we're in Canada. It's a very different experience. You know, they're trying to just give people money to keep them quiet. They're doing everything they can to do that. Because it's an easy tactic. It's an easy tactic to pacify people. You go give them what they need. You know, Netflix delivery and some money a month. They'll never get out of their house to do anything. So we're good. We can run
They're
amok.
too comfortable to question it.
Yeah.
Like, why would I? I'm getting everything I want.
Yeah. But there's places that aren't there. You know, there's places in the States where it's like, you know, there's people with mortgages and they can't work. And then it's like, I'll take $1,500 to shit talk people online. I can see somebody doing that and I can't get mad at them for it, especially to be in that where you go, I'm not in those shoes. I don't need that kind of money that badly where I'll do that.
Or even to promote the shot, people are getting paid.
I'm sure you saw that stuff where
they had a special in the States. It was Michelle and Barack. Did you see that? I sent it to you, I think.
No, I don't know if I got this. No.
Okay. It was like this. Barack. It was what was it? Roll up the sleeves or something? Roll up your sleeve? Something. Yeah, Michelle and Barack Obama were on it.
Oh, that was the thing you sent me on Instagram.
Yeah, you got to take time and watch that.
Okay,
man. It's like an hour long. Just take it in.
Okay.
And so it's like star-studded cast. I think Ciara and her husband were hosting the show. And they had, you know, different people come. Fauci came on for 2 seconds. He literally said yes and no to 2 different questions that really didn't inform the viewers at all. You know, they had I think Charles Barkley, Shaq,
didn't Charles Barkley speak
Wanda
out on
Sykes, and there was a segment on you know, like black people, why black people should get the vaccine, and none of it made sense. Like none of it was just all whirlwind of crazy. And you know, they even exploited they exploited this. I think he you know, had some kind of developmental disability. But he's just like, I just want to get back to my hockey. You know, hockey is my life, and it's what gives me joy. And you know what I'm saying? Like just playing on emotions and focusing on like this is what you need to get back to normal, rather than this is the hard science behind it.
Yeah,
you know, real reason. Like
this
something that is
approved.
Good for you. It should just sell itself.
Yeah,
you know, why is there such a strong marketing?
Yes,
you know,
that's
what I mean?
People should be way more weary of strong marketing like that when they're using all the celebrities.
And you look at so the most telling part is you look at the commercials during the segments. Fast food, big pharma. Pretty much the entire thing. Fast food, big pharma, and then like cell phones. And I think there was a show that was coming on. But every time, like McDonald's McRib is coming back out, and you know.
Just
take
pumping
this drug.
You with drugs.
Absolutely.
Drugs.
But see, and this is where I get upset, because I'm slowly starting to realize that the only real cause of that is us. You know what I mean? Like it really
people will
comes
only
down
do
to
what you'll allow them to.
Yeah.
And they get away with what you allow them to get away with.
Yes. Yeah. And it really, you know what? And money fucking talks, man.
Yeah.
Money talks. If you stop giving your fucking money to these people.
You vote with your dollar.
You know what bothers me so much too? Because I see the lineups as McDonald's, man. And there's no winning it too, because you speak negatively on them and there's no such thing as bad press. So it's still good, because now someone listening is still gonna go, oh yeah, McDonald's. I'm gonna grab one.
Oh, the McRib is coming back.
It's you know, it's
oh shoot,
it's
it was free advertising with McDonald's.
Yeah,
right there.
you know what I mean. It's like this perfect, and they've perfected it. They perfected it where you go. But if we smartened up and went, you know what, fuck these guys. I don't want to buy fucking chickens with no beaks. I want chickens with real beaks. Let's give money to fucking real farmers, and there's a bunch of them, and. You know, if you did that, you would notice change. It's hard to imagine, because we think we're like just kind of fucking stuck in the machine grinding. But you can, man. We have that ability if we do it. But
I mean, it starts with conscious awareness. You know, and we were talking about McDonald's and just the color scheme alone, like yellow being the color of madness, and driving people to kind of just make quick movements, quick in, quick out, without any deep thinking about it, right? And I don't know, have you heard of the Princeton Radio Project?
No.
So back, I think in the 30s, there was a commissioned research project, and forgive me the names, just look up Princeton Radio Project. But that was sort of like the beginning of bringing propaganda into the homes, or mind control into the homes. And then the Invasion from Mars, that broadcast.
Yes.
That fear-inducing broadcast.
Was that Orson Welles, or was that?
That was an experiment to see how people would react. Right. Yes, Orson Welles.
Yeah.
See,
now, okay, I remember reading something that really struck a chord with me, that said that basically the invention of the microscope, what it did for medicine and science was the same thing that the invention of the printing press did in terms of creating propaganda. Because once you were able to like transmit an image to people, then you were able to create a story around that image. It's, you know what it is? It's it's the shadows on the wall. It's the Plato's cave.
Yeah.
You know, and so you go, every time you show somebody something and you go, look, you've never seen this before. Now I'm going to tell you what it is. You go, well, how are you going to take that any other way? Where you go, the box is never wrong.
Yeah.
It wouldn't lie to us. It wouldn't tell us anything. You know, and we've just kind of made it all about that.
Well, this is the whole reason that I decided to, and I made the decision when I was pregnant with my firstborn child, what am I going to do with my life? And I think I graduated 4 days before having my daughter.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? And I realized with
baby in one hand, PhD in the other, what am I going to do now?
But I just... The reason that I left science is because, growing up, like math was always my favorite subject and music was my favorite. And I, enjoyed studying the sciences, and I had a very romantic view of what it was. And then I came to realize that numbers don't lie, but you can lie with numbers.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. And that
was a book.
There's so much behind that lying with numbers, and there's so much that motivates that for different reasons. There's bureaucracy, there's nepotism, there's all kinds of corrupt forces that, penetrate pretty much every industry. And for me, it's like, even though in the music industry there's corruption, the music itself doesn't lie. You can't lie with music. It's frequencies, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's pure.
But it's also a very hypnotic frequency. So purity does play.
You can manipulate.
There.
You can manipulate with it. Yes,
absolutely. Because I see that now.
But
more
I can even feel that with certain music. It's
absolutely,
it's not on the right.
It's like penetrate.
A lot of radio music's like that.
The way it's hitting you, I totally.
And that's like with everything. When we were having the conversation earlier about, without even understanding, like with your head, when something is off, you understand like with your heart. What is happening, and
and I think
how do you make the connection between head and hearts? Like,
I think we've disconnected that. I think that was a connection that was intentionally severed.
Well, that's scientism, is the disconnection, right?
I totally agree. But then I mean, because even you could even look at religion the same way. It disconnects you.
Yeah, true.
It disconnects you from it.
Well, like, and there's corruption within certain religious institutions as well. My partner left a cult.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't want to get into details of it too much because, but just know, like, certain religions are religious institutions or cults,
I mean, they've always, I've always kind of looked at it that way. That's what always sort of chased me away. But then also now I also see the other side of it too. I do see the need of community, of people having something good to believe in, something good. So like just creating hope in humans.
The romantic notion of it is great.
And
that's the problem. Is like the romantic notion of so many things is great. If we can just stay connected to that, and protect it somehow from outside corrupting forces. Like how do you, that's the big thing. Like even with charities, a lot of these start as grassroots things with amazing intentions. And then someone up here who's interested in money and power gets their hand in it, and the whole thing is it's no longer what it originally was.
Yeah, it's forgotten.
Yeah.
I feel like even right now I feel like I'm walking through a fucking cult that I don't want to be in. Like with the masks and everything. Like everyone's wearing.
It feels like a ritual.
Yeah, it totally does. And everyone's
like everyone's got the
like
hood on ritual, and they're just and you you don't have it, and
there's certain scripts that you repeat in this together, and
social
It's not for me, it's for you.
Yeah. My grandma, like, I'm doing this for my grandma.
I'm wearing this to protect my grandmother. Or,
that's on the TTC.
Things like
that's
I've
on the
heard
TTC.
This script. Oh, yeah.
They have it. They have advertisements.
Everywhere, yes.
Man, I've been...
and there's so many contradictions because it's just like anyone whose child isn't wearing mask is a child abuse. It's like, but you just said that the mask is to protect others. So how's that abusing the child then? Isn't the child abusing the adults?
Yeah.
If that's the argument, like these things that don't...
The kids can't get it. The kids are safe. And then now they have a vaccine that can...
I thought before kids couldn't get it, but now it's like, no, don't put a mask on your kid who's not even done developing yet, who needs like we all need oxygen, but Jesus, the kids.
My children are depressed.
Are they?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they be? I would be. You know what it is, man. My as a kid, my saddest days were when you're punished, when you're grounded. You're stuck in your room, man, fucking rainy day, and you're like, man, I can't go. And now the kids aren't even doing anything wrong, and they're punished. And you go, that is so, man, that's so criminal to do that to kids unnecessarily. It's one thing, man. It's one thing if the kid deserves it, fine.
It's the criminal terms, like the lockdown and the,
Absolutely, man. Oh,
that it puts that in your head that if you are, that it's criminal not to do it. And that's it's interesting too, because people don't realize these are bylaws. They're not, by not abiding to them, you're not committing a criminal offense. If they give you a ticket, it can get thrown out in court. Like these things do not.
I mean, even if it is a criminal offense, it doesn't make it a difference, right? If it was like, now they go, it's a crime to not kill the guy that's not wearing a mask.
Right.
You go, not doing it doesn't make you you go, okay, you're a criminal in the eyes of the law, but let's that's not so bad. But you know what's funny, if we're talking numbers, how funny is it where the safest demographic was kids? They were almost unable to get it, right? And now again, if okay, so let's rewind to the microscope idea of propaganda. I don't think it's a coincidence that kids aren't susceptible, that the kids can't get it because they have no idea or concept of what germs are. They're not thinking on a micro level.
You're
where they're
about the
like
nocebo effect.
Like
Inception. You're sick.
Yes.
Everybody's sick.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I wonder how many people are getting sick because of the fear.
Well,
not to say that everybody,
well, you know what it feels like.
That's a huge part of it, I think.
Remember, did you watch Bird Box?
Yes.
I communicate through movies. I communicate through movies. It feels like Bird Box, where you're focused
aren't they saying that the people saying, like, isn't it almost like predictive programming? It's like by saying that people that are quote anti-maskers, which doesn't even make sense, but people that are quote anti-maskers are the crazy people trying to take the cloth off the eyes and kill everybody else.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But what's happening too is, everybody's fear is being targeted on an algorithmic individual level, right? So that's where it's and that's where it's the trickiest, and what's most frightening to me is because now you're up against everyone's own personal fear, which I don't know what the fuck it is.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So I can relate to you any way possible. I will try to empathize with you on the fullest level. But if I don't know what you're afraid of, then what the fuck? I don't know what I'm going to talk to you about. If that's what we're on the conversation of is fear. So it's
fear is very disconnecting.
Yes,
it's very personal.
And what that was the one right before apathy. Did you say?
It's right after. So apathy is the absolute lowest.
Right.
It's
before,
like absence of any kind of emotion.
Yeah.
Yes. So then, so that fear, and you see it in people. They're just like, they're getting to that point where now you're like, you can't trust anybody, you can't look at anybody. We greeted each other with a hug, which was incredible. That's nice to be able to still live in a world like that. It's
where you're not considered a germ. Like, I feel
you're lepers. Everybody's a leper.
You're a
leper. You're all a threat. And teaching children that and this is a phenomenon. Children being afraid. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to kill my grandmother.
That's terrible.
That
like, they're playing on our compassion.
Engaging with your own family, which one of the biggest, another disconnect I found personally and just in general societally is a disconnect from the elders. We shove them in long-term care homes. That's it's the thing to do. Western like Canadian culture. I've seen it in the States as well, but
Japan
primarily,
is different. Like, you go to Japan, everybody's
taking care of their.
It's definitely a cultural thing because there are cultures where they do respect the elders, and the it's a very different culture as a result of it. Information is passed on better. It's more communal. It's more trusting. There's a lot to it where they're really fucking around with this stuff. And again, the math, going with the numbers. So if kids aren't even susceptible to getting it, and now they create the snake oil jab that has 100% efficiency with kids. Do you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
The way you
they
could play
tested
with
on the healthiest
numbers,
segments of the population.
Sure, and it's a kid that's super healthy, can't even get it anyway because he doesn't know what it is. So it's just another needle that you're poking a kid with, and 100% effective. Yeah, that's what they're able to say now, and people are going to eat it up. People are going to buy it. And again, it's just that fabrication with numbers.
The numbers baffle me, to be honest. I mean, I was reading something about cycle threshold with PCR the other night, and they were talking about two concepts: pre-test probability and positive predictive value. So they're saying that, okay, I don't know if the RT-PCR, just to break it down quickly, the RT means reverse transcription. So this part of the test, you're converting an mRNA sample to DNA, which is more stable. And then the PCR, polymerase chain reaction, you are proliferating the DNA so that it can reach a critical amount that can be detected. So it will fluoresce. So once it reaches a certain, if there's enough sample, then it will fluoresce, right? But you need to cycle it a certain number of times, and there's like a detection limit at the top. So once you've cycled it a certain number of times, then you can say like, because of random binding, that it's not specific to your sample. So
what is random binding?
So meaning that your primers will bind non-specifically to a certain degree. So the primers are what help to amplify or to grow the DNA into new strands.
Okay.
So as you're amplifying it, so you're going to get a certain degree of non-specific binding. So the specific binding would be to your product of interest, which would be the mRNA that you're looking at, right? So once you cycle a certain number of times, like you're going to see something with whatever sample you put in. So different labs are determining what this upper limit for cycle threshold is. And then there's a lower limit as well. If you don't cycle it enough times, then you're not cycling it enough to make sure that, there might be something still there, but you haven't amplified it enough. Yeah. So they're saying, like, from lab to lab, these cycle threshold levels are different. And it depends on a variety of different, different equipment, different reagents, whatnot, like different technicians.
Like right down to the day of the week.
Yeah, everything, for whatever reason, there's a lot of variability in what they, are the optimal levels, or like the sample, how the sample's treated, how it's been transported, et cetera, et cetera. But the other thing that affects these values, and these are the tests they're using to determine whether somebody has COVID or not.
Okay, let me just ask you this, because we have to take one soon, because we're trying to travel, and we need to come up with a negative test, which would be lovely if it could be forged, but can it be done anyway? Can you use a spit sample to do it? Do you know? Would you?
I don't think they're allowing it, is the thing.
They're not allowing it, but can you do a blood sample for
well,
can you run a blood sample under a PCR?
This is the thing that I don't. Okay, so what would be the gold standard for testing for an active virus? What do you think? That's a question? Yes. What do you think would be a gold standard for? Just think very logically, very intuitively.
I would honestly just go on like looking at a person to go like, do they look healthy or do they look sick? That would be
but how do you know specifically that it is
like, are they
the
sweating?
SARS-CoV-2 virus?
Yeah, I wouldn't know that, so I would have no idea.
What would you say? Like if you're the pathogen of interest is SARS-CoV-2, wouldn't you want to isolate SARS-CoV-2 in that person and say, I've just found this in you. I found the SARS-CoV-2 virus in you. You have the SARS-CoV-2 virus. That would be the gold standard, isolating the virus.
Isolating.
Right? So that Public Health Ontario will tell you that for some reason it's more difficult to culture SARS-CoV-2 than other viruses. So they're not, meaning that they're unable to culture it so that a virus should self-replicate, right?
Because then if it doesn't, it's just
then it's not an active virus
that's in your body.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's mRNA floating around everywhere. You could be a dead or inactive virus or whatever fragment that's anyway. So that would be the gold standard, is isolating the virus, which they haven't really done.
But they've also apparently, in the talk of the kooky world, they've never done that.
No,
they've never isolated any virus.
Well, they haven't. They've done a best estimate of the sequence.
But even even with HIV, they didn't. They haven't identified it, right? It's never been isolated.
You know what? I don't know much about HIV science.
I'm really dumb, and I look at things very dumb in a stupid way. And for me, it seems like
it's just like you don't know anything, right?
Yeah,
and then go from there.
So to me, what it sounds like, especially when I hear words, if I hear words like amplification and stuff like that, if these things are being looked at under a microscope, which that's what I imagine is some form of machine that has to zoom in on this stuff. So if you're zooming in on these things, and if we were to take into consideration that, we're connected to some main source and we are everything and everything's in us and we are in everything and all that stuff, then it would make sense that all illnesses and all that kind of stuff is within the body to turn on or off at any given time. But if you were to just keep, and that's why these thresholds, to me, I look at the thresholds as just magnification levels. That's how I perceive them. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's basically what it is.
Right. So if you're magnifying it and you go, well, I magnified it 35 times, and then another clinic magnifies it 40 times, 35 times one is a negative result, 40 times is positive. To me, that's just like you're going deeper into that world, that basement, that dark room, and you're just seeing the same shit, but now you're coming back. Yeah, they're always there.
They're always there, yeah.
And that's why you almost can't isolate them, because it's always there. And so it doesn't mean anything. You have HIV in you, but you don't have the symptoms. And you go, because it's just in your body. That's how I would perceive it. So when someone says something like the guy, did you look into the Kerry Mullis? Did you have to research him?
Oh, I mean, I've heard
of. You did that
I
yourself?
learned about him in school. He's the inventor of PCR back in the 70s.
So now, when you learned about it, was there any talk of him speaking against the PCR? Did they mention that in school?
He's never speaking against the PCR. He's just, I think, in any talks that when I was studying him in school, we were learning about genetics. We weren't we weren't learning about virology. But what he has been, that I've seen videos of him talking and saying that it's not, effective at determining whether there's an active virus. So this is why I go back to gold standard. So number one would be isolating the virus. Number two would be defining a list of symptoms, which even the symptoms are variable for this thing, right?
They're anything and everything.
Yeah. And then, and what about serological evidence, like measuring antibodies? We're not doing these kind of tests.
Right.
We could be running ELISA tests. So to answer your question, you could be looking for antibodies. But even with that, you keep antibodies in your blood for a good long time after exposure to virus. That's how you have future immunity, or you're conferred some level of immunity to a virus after you get it. Is that you get B cell antibodies and then T cell antibodies. So, the PCR really just takes a piece of mRNA and converts it to DNA and amplifies it. And they're saying that, so cycle threshold is going to factor in, but also pretest probability, which means if you have a high pretest probability, that means that you came in and you had symptoms, you were exposed to people that had symptoms, et cetera, et cetera. That it would make sense that you might have it. So if you have a pretest probability that's high coming in, then the positive predictive value of the test is higher. So meaning that it's more likely running the PCR. If it comes out positive, it means that you have it. Yeah. Right. However, if you have a low pretest probability, meaning that you don't have any symptoms, you weren't in contact with anybody, there's no reason why you might have it. And also, if you are in a low transmission environment. So if you look at Ontario, for example, there's about 46,000 active cases last I checked.
Okay.
And the population is about 14.5 mil. So that's a fraction of percent, about 0.3%. Okay, so that's considered low community transmission.
Yes.
Okay.
So with low community transmission and no low pretest probability, you're looking at an accuracy of this thing about 40%. You know what I'm saying? So like, why are they even Dr. Fauci went on. Someone asked him like, "Oh, have you been tested for COVID?" He's like, "Why would I do that? I don't have symptoms." But they're testing. Like, why are you guys being tested? You have no symptoms. You haven't, as far as you know, been in contact with anybody.
No, it's to jump through the hoops of traveling.
Yeah. Then they can't isolate an active virus, so they might be amplifying something. You don't know. It doesn't tell you whether there is an actively replicating virus in you that you would be a threat to other people or yourself.
Yeah. And it's like, since when, like, young people, like, we've been able to fight off, it's a virus. I mean, God, we can fight it off.
It's just a flu-like virus.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, since when? We've had flus where we felt we were dying, like we couldn't get out of bed. And how is this any different? Like, if you're young...
Not much.
No. Okay, and I do want to ask you, so I'm going to assume you're anti-vaccine.
I don't like that. I don't want to call myself anti-vaccine, but I'm not interested in getting this one.
Yeah.
I'm actually, like, quote, up to date on my vaccinations. I've never gotten a flu vaccine before. Flu vaccine never really made sense to me because it's only been about 40 to 60% effective based on what the numbers. I mean, I haven't examined them closely, but the numbers I've heard is 40 to 6% accuracy, whatever that means. But if you think about it, like, flu viruses mutate so quickly, and they can only give it like a best estimate of, what direction it's going to mutate.
It's like the newest iPhone.
Yeah, it's like the newest iPhone. And I mean, this vaccine program, it's like you get, I think, 2 shots within a certain number of weeks of one another, and then you have to keep getting them every 6 months or something.
What a great customer base you create.
There's this one doctor that, just as an idea to put out. I mean, I'm not a virologist. I'm not a whatever. Then we're just having a conversation here. But he was saying that his concern is that these mRNA technologies, so the Moderna and Pfizer technologies, basically inject mRNA into your cells, and then it uses your cell's machinery to produce a protein from the mRNA transcript, which is this, quote, spike protein. And it's a very robust reaction, and then your body forms specific antibodies to this particular part of the protein. Now, if you think how your body your immune system will naturally react to something, you create different types of antibodies to attack different parts of the virus, like not just one specific part of a virus, but there'll be, some kind of, there's diversity in your antibodies, right?
How we evolve.
So what the doctor is suggesting is that you're training your body to be very specific in its antibody production. So you get a robust production of one specific type of antibody. And what that can do is, it's like just training your biceps all the time, and then you present a challenge where you need your legs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're screwed. Jeez. Because you've been focusing all of your energy and time on developing your biceps.
Right.
And then,
wow.
So it's like you become dependent on the
Yes.
latest vaccine.
Oh, God.
Because your body is,
that's
its
so
natural
funny.
Way of operating has been.
Yeah.
And this this is just, I'm not a virologist again, I have to repeat, but these are some of the concepts and ideas that you kind of you think about.
You have to wonder, you have to, man. I had allergies as a kid growing up, and there was one thing I noticed where it took a couple years, but then the medicine stopped working. It was just, you had to switch brands, you had to switch formula, you had to do something else because your body got used to it.
Yeah.
And that was like such a man, it was so bothersome for me because that was the remedy for everything. Yeah. Like as a kid too, it was like every headache, take an aspirin. Every headache, and then man, they said aspirin killed Bruce Lee.
Oh, that's
they gave Bruce Lee an aspirin on one of his, like, the last day he was alive, he gave him an aspirin, he went home and slept, and he never woke up. And it's like, you go, but that was a good body. That was a perfect body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was so in tune.
Yeah.
And then it was like, you gave him this.
Yeah,
it's
we've
hard
totally
to-
left, like, trusting ourselves and spirit and nature. That's a perfect machine that will always correct, that will always, like, expel. Like, when you get sick, you're expelling. Your body's actually helping you get rid of things that are maybe old cells or old whatever. So it's like we've now lost that connection with ourselves, with nature, and now putting it all into science and saying, like, my body doesn't know better. You know better. This medicine knows better.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
It really feels like I was in an abusive relationship for 6 years, and so it's like I see, like, there's a lot of red flags being raised right now.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of this feels like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
It's, we were talking about, door in the face technique.
Yes, I have it pulled up right here. It's a compliance method commonly studied in social psychology. And you go, well, yeah, what is it? Define it. Well, okay, so do you know the technique?
Wikipedia will describe it better than I.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. It was, so in a classic experiment investigating the effectiveness of the door in the face technique, researchers separated participants into 3 groups. Group 1, experimenters asked participants to volunteer to counsel juvenile delinquents for 2 hours a week for 2 years. That's a big request. After the refusal, the group was asked to chaperone juvenile delinquents on a 1-day trip to the zoo, small request. Group 2 was given only the small request. In Group 3, the experimenter described the large request, but asked the participants to perform the small request. 50% of the participants in Group 1 agreed to the small request, compared to 17% in Group 2 and 25% in Group 3. Because compliance for the small request was significantly larger for Group 1 than Group 2, the door in the face technique was successful.
Yeah.
Compliance for the small request was also significantly larger for Group 1 than Group 3, which demonstrates that mere exposure to the more extreme task does not affect compliance as significantly. What a fucking beautiful way to scare the shit out of people.
Yeah.
Into something terrible that's coming. You can't even see it. It's fucking in your food, and it goes away at 10 p.m. or it only comes out at 10 p.m. Yeah. You're safe until 10 p.m. Maybe you better get inside. Curfew. Yeah, it's on some boogeyman shit. And then they go, and then everything gets dialed back. Oh, okay, we can still go out, but we have to wear masks. That's not so bad. Yeah. We're doing it.
Right.
Fuck,
right.
Man.
Yeah.
It's so
and as long
easy.
as you get this, you can still travel.
Yeah.
As long as you get the vaccine, you can still go.
It's these little carrots. It's the dangling carrot, right? And then when you almost get the carrot, they smash the door in your face.
Because they'll just keep doing that. Yeah. And now there's the second variant. So now we're all locked down again. And we're just so grateful when they can open it back up that we don't, we'll do whatever it takes. I'll take the shot. I'll take the mask. I'll do whatever just to have my freedom back.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's Stockholm syndrome.
Oh, money solicitation. It's also good for money solicitation. A study looking at behavioral, not just verbal.
Yeah, it's like, hey, can I have $1 million? And be like, what, are you crazy? It's like, can I have 1,000? Is that?
Yeah. You go, okay, 1,000s. Yeah.
Yeah, I can manage that. Well, so Doug Ford just pulled out the other day. He's like, you're going to be locked down. There's going to be curfews. It's going to be police state.
Right.
You know? Yes. And then when he pulled back a little bit, people were like, okay, cool. I can deal with this.
Yeah, but it was the same bullshit.
It was the same bullshit.
You go, oh, no, now they can just come right into your fucking home. That was the new thing.
Right.
That was so they go, no, don't worry, they can't stop you on the street, but they will kick your door down.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in such a state of high anxiety and a state of high fear, you will do almost anything to try to get
out of it. Yeah.
Anyone that's been in an abusive situation would understand that.
Yeah, you'll say what you need to say to just don't hit me. Fuck, man.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah.
That's so yeah,
like that was my life. It's just like, I'm just, you know what, this is, I just kind of accept it. I'm like, this is how my life is going to be. It's not, ideal in any kind of way, but I can kind of tolerate it. And I think I can sort of control it. And then you're just like, no.
Yeah.
You got to get out.
We need our own personal power to.
What was the thing that helped bring you out of that? What helped bring you out of that? Give us hope. Friends.
Connection. Connection. Because that is the,
look at that.
That is how a narcissist works, is they separate you from everybody. They separate you from everybody. They shame you. They hold things over your head. And then it's like they'll love bomb you, and then they'll slowly devalue you and discard, and then hook you back in, because you'll be discarded and completely alone and feeling like you have no bearings. And then they give you another huge love bombing, suck you back in, but it starts, at the heart of it is isolation. It's like shaming for talking to, anyone of the opposite sex, or, this friend, I feel like your girlfriend doesn't like me. I don't really want you talking to her anymore. She doesn't understand our bond, or, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then making you feel like, that you're different and nobody will really understand you like the way that I do. You won't be accepted to other people. Only I get you, and you're alone in this world except for me.
Right. Listen to us.
There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with me, but we're both wrong together.
Yeah. Right.
It's like you fit in here.
Yeah.
On this low vibration. Wow. We're in this together.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't that
Us
sound
against
familiar?
the world.
Everybody in this together, like in this crappy feeling, being abused by the government.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's so, man, I saw this thing with, I was listening to this, like it was this talk on, I guess, old philosophers and stuff, even new ones. But it was about mass psychosis, and historically how that was always a great way to control people. You get people terrified of something, of an enemy that they can't see.
Yeah, that's the invasion from Mars from the 30s, that whole experiment.
Absolutely. Right? So you just keep creating these things, and they're testing it and tweaking it. And it seems like, historically, it seems like almost every 100 years, the generations gap too much, you're able to do it again. You're able to hit that loop.
People forget.
We weren't around for the Spanish
History
flu, so you don't
reason.
right. And you go, what do we know about the Spanish flu? It was deadly. It was the worst.
Yeah.
What if it was the same shit?
Yeah.
It was people dying. People always die, but it was people dying and being terrified and put in this anxiety-ridden state of mind. Masking all the time,
getting pneumonia from the masks.
Yeah, I mean, man, it was so. And then I heard something. It took 2 years. Someone just told me it took 2 years before they declared that masks you could take them off. It took 2 years before it was, before full faces were normalized. That was in the Spanish flu days. So this mass psychosis that we're going through. One of the things that it made a mention of was that. One of the things that, like a lot of dictators, tyrants, they always do is they always try to isolate the people. Because when you isolate them, they're the easiest to control.
Absolutely.
It's the easiest to feed them exactly what to think, how to feel, and all that stuff. And
and then shaming people for getting together.
Yes. I mean, that's the most dangerous thing. Make sure they can't communicate.
And the worst kind of fear, you're going to kill someone if you get together with them.
Yes.
You are a weapon. You're a biological weapon.
Yeah.
Don't get close to anything.
But that's what, see, that made me also understand what we do as artists too. It made me understand the importance of what we do as artists, and again, that importance of art and science is what we're able to create. We're able to create environments where people come together, and generally speaking, they leave feeling better than they did when they went in.
Yeah.
So you are providing people with that, the laughter being the best medicine, the music healing the soul. There is something where you go, it's not like coincidental, yes, that they took that away as well as churches. That's what it really.
Absolutely.
This year definitely infuriated me to a greater extent to see how criminal it is to take church away, because that's not a solution to anything. It's a very integral part of community.
Oh my gosh, there's this hilarious video circulating of this pastor in a church.
Oh yeah, the guy that snapped on the people.
Yeah, he's like, get out! You do not belong in here.
So man, he's still putting up a daily fight. They're locking up his church.
Me.
Man, I'm telling you,
he's like, I survived Nazi Germany. He's
yeah, that's the kind of stuff where you go. That's a perspective that if we're not paying attention to. I mean, you know, it's funny to me. It's funny because I'm the comedian. I get to laugh at it, so it's funny to me. But it's not gonna be funny when I say that stuff and people get offended by that stuff the way they do about the Holocaust and the way they do, because there is gonna be that time, right? 50 years from now, when you look and you go, hey, it turns out that medicine that just got approved too quickly. It wasn't our fault. It was the times. We were moving too fast, and it got approved. And oh, look, it just ended up
to do what we thought was best.
Yeah,
for everybody.
and now everyone's sterilized. It's going to take another 60 generations before we can build back. Stuff like that is what it really it does. It startles me because I do see that that perfect game they play to be able to just they get to absolve themselves of any wrongdoing so easy. They don't get tried. There's never been a doctor that's put away, short of the weird plastic surgeons.
If something happens with the shots, they're not liable at all.
No, nothing.
They make that very clear.
What bothered me even more is that they even went a step further. Not only can you not go after the medical industry, you cannot even go after the government. The government is absolved as well.
Absolutely.
So now they've even rubbed themselves out of the equation. You go, well, then who the fuck is responsible? You can't take on the person that's touching you. Right.
You're giving informed consent.
To the
procedure. See, that's what bothers me about.
But it's coercion, though, because anybody that I hear, like I said, that has taken this, is not because I looked at the science and I looked at the numbers and it seemed to be an appropriate prescription. And so I accepted it. They're saying, no, man, I just want to get back to performing. I just want to fly. Like, can't you understand that? I just want to get back to my normal life. It's like, I get it, but you can't negotiate with a terrorist. You just can't.
Exactly.
You can't negotiate with a terrorist.
Yep.
You will not.
Yeah.
That's true.
When you're given it's basically you're given an option: do this or you don't get to live. Like, why would I take
someone that kind of power? What other kind of power are they gonna?
Exactly. Like that. Why? That's why we should fight more.
I understand that to the fullest degree. But now, what do you say to someone? Okay, so if I have to travel, and if I need because I'm opposed to the PCR testing. I don't agree with it. I think the invasion of somebody's private space is
bodily autonomy all the way.
And it's so important to me, and I've always laughed and giggled about it with friends, how like just doctors in general always have this need to just try to stick a finger in you. That's what they're all about. Make sure you check your prostate. Don't worry about eating McDonald's every day, but make sure you check your prostate so we get to poke a finger in you. There was always something I could giggle about it and go, they're a weird little group, those doctors. Right? Because that's your pitch. Your sales pitch is, how do I get this in you? Right? I'm just checking. Let me just make sure. You go, man, I know dudes like that. So it's like, let them check. But that's a weird thing to go like, hey, make sure you have to do it. And you go,
I mean, they've actually done studies on this, on like, like sociopathy and psychopathy and like surgeons and
I've always said this, and I didn't. What is the study? Because man, I've always felt that too. If you have it in you, I don't care if it's for a fucking job.
Like cut someone up. Or,
to really slice somebody open and stitch them.
I feel no way about it.
Yeah, there's a level where you go, everything I've ever read or heard or understood on psychopaths, serial killers, it's that.
Disconnection.
They're able to disconnect from that level of like...
Well, it's also this pursuit of like, I'm going to get to the truth no matter what it costs.
Right.
Even
if it costs your life.
Like, even with scientists, it's like, I don't care, even with the experimentation on animals and like during the Holocaust and other wars, experimenting on. I mean, that Bill Gates does it all the time. He does human experimenting on quote third world countries.
So old.
Gates,
so old.
Gates
you got to be a psychopath.
Yeah.
And it's thinking this is less than I am now a god. Really, in my mind, I need to discover.
It's like it's rituals. It's like human sacrifice. It's cult ritual.
I know it's very hard to argue with those conspiracy people when they start talking about them
being all sacrificial and all this stuff. And then one of the things that always strikes me odd is that one of the fucking ingredients on these things is aborted fetus cells.
Yeah. Well, it's the HCK90 cells that were derived from a aborted fetal cell line from the 70s.
And that's
that's the sort of stuff where you go, when I look at restaurants, I've worked in a restaurant, I've seen the way restaurants is the way you use food, where you go, okay, how do we use up all this stuff? There's a very invested interest to try to go, hey, let's encourage people to get abortions so we can get aborted fetal cells, because that's the easy
But they claim,
ingredient.
it's just from the ones from the 70s.
For sure.
Because that's the buffer, right? I mean, we're getting into conspiracy theory now, but you think about it, it's like you have that, like, cover my ass, like, these were voluntary, you know? I mean, even at that, like,
I'm looking at it purely from a business standpoint, not conspiratorial.
It's voluntary, like the vaccine is.
Yeah, all of this, what are we consenting? We're consenting to these people. Man, I again, to communicate through art and film, there was I think it was called the China, what was that? The China one-child policy.
The one-child policy, yeah.
So there's a doc on it, and they interview people. It was a long time, so it's cool. You get this really big time frame to observe a situation, and it was the one thing that was interesting to see is the people that were doing it knew that it was wrong, but they had no choice. They were just following orders.
Yeah.
It also ended up like that shit eats away at them. And it ended up like a lot of them just didn't make it too far in life because they had a hard time dealing with what they were able to do. And the ones that did make it through really made an effort to correct their ways because they realized how morally wrong they were. Because there was something where you go, because now China has a 2-person policy. So they just changed up policy, but you go, they did a lot of incorrect things when it was the one-child policy.
Oh yeah,
and
like
so
killing off.
Yeah,
like
it was
near-term children.
Yes, they would like just kind of take
Cut
mothers out of their homes and sort of.
It's not
like,
just China though. There's like
sterilization
projects in different countries in the world too. I think
Peru.
I know.
Peru. If I'm correct.
I think there's female genital mutilation stuff still.
Well, but this is like sterilized. They were actually mass sterilizing women in, I think it was Peru. I might be wrong.
I don't know. Yeah.
And I think this was a Gates funded thing.
How do we trust this? Like,
it's
it blows my mind that people trust him.
It's good for business.
And even in Vancouver, there was I saw someone posted, there was actually a billboard saying like, it was, I don't know the exact words they used, but it was promoting less children. And it actually was like one child, and it was a black kid on the poster.
I think I saw. Yeah.
And it's like, holy shit, man! Like people think, it was so long ago. Like it's like no.
Well, I love that you brought that up because that mentality. You know what I mean? It's like, even if you look at some of like the medieval awful things that happen, like when did all of a sudden this stuff stop? Like all those evil rituals? You think that they're just nothing like that is going on today?
I know.
That this concept that we live in the best possible world now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, there's been like dark stuff happening from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Where is it? And we don't see it. So where's it going on?
Such a beautiful point.
We still have a queen. We still have like medieval ideologies.
Everything is glossed.
Yeah.
You know, in the media, everything's happy and shiny and wonderful. No.
No.
My partner was sexually abused as a child by his headmaster and nearly brought into a pedophile ring that's tied into the BBC.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we're getting banned on this one. I mean, it's fine. We've already said too much.
I'm sorry.
But no, it's okay.
No,
I think every episode so far, I don't think we'll ever release. I mean, we'll release, but you know what I mean? It'll get scrubbed real quick. Because it's inevitable. It's very hard not to.
Or them. How are they now?
Depression, anxiety, chronic PTSD.
And how that's so common, and we think, we're in Canada.
And conspiracy theorist.
Yeah,
exactly. And you have actual experience where it's like, and it's just like, but people, like, and they think, it's Canada. We've always been free. It's like, Canada, first of all, we just celebrated like our 150th anniversary, like of the creation of Canada. It's like, you really think this land has been 150 years old? Like, really, like we're savages. Like, how, that's not far off. Like,
but we call them savages. It's always the reversal. It's good misdirection. Hey, look, they're the savages. That's where they are. Look what they do.
Yeah.
You go, not us. We're good.
Yeah.
And you're doing all this horrific shit to them, and you're like, no, these guys are horrible. They don't know how to live. And you go, man, you're really.
Yeah.
I have a buddy, another comedian, Dino Archie. He would always say you always have to pay your tab. The tab, like, so there's no escaping that. There is a eventually it gives. Eventually the dam breaks. Yeah. You know, I don't know when. I hope soon. I really hope somehow we can. Yeah. We need more musicians. That's what's bothering. I'm very bothered by the fact that the musicians aren't rocking and rolling.
Well, that's the other thing too, right?
Woodstock was all that. Woodstock was all a big rebel. It was all like, fuck you, we're not doing what you say. And here's our contribution to society.
But the message is being spun that if you have anything to say against the mainstream narrative, then you don't care about humanity.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, it's all these virtual things. It's like
signal. Virtue signaling.
Yeah. So it's like, it just sucks. Like, it's just really making people. But I mean, we have nothing to sell. Like, we are not selling anything by saying you're a free human being and you can, you can decide.
I'll be selling books and albums on all tours. No, it's true. It's always funny that the people that aren't getting paid, that are trying to look out for other people, that are trying to, you go, no, what the fuck do you know? And you go, okay, what do you...
We're saying you have the answers, not they, not that, like, not this thing. It's you. Like, you have everything you need to be healthy and a free human, sovereign human. You do not need anyone else. Yeah. They're saying you need us. Yes. You need this. Yes. You need to rely on us to be okay.
Yeah, that's that abusive relationship.
Create the problem and then provide the solution.
Yeah.
Right?
So how do we attack it, man? Because it feels like jokes aren't doing enough. Chuckling jokes online. I mean, I guess you battle it one-on-one.
I mean, that's it. It's just.
It just seems so.
I guess to answer that question is like, how do you connect with people? How do you truly connect with people?
Yeah.
I think that's very. I think it's very foolish doing online because I feel like that I know the disconnect is there. Yeah, it's you're not connecting with people. Live performance, church proceedings.
I gave up on the online streaming stuff.
Yeah, no, I've always been against it. I've done some live interviews where it's just really a conversation, and even those, I hate the disconnect. If you have to glitch out on me for me to have a conversation with you, I don't want to have a conversation with you. I like, let's save it for when we catch each other in face to face. And then you go, this is, if I have to hear someone twitch or digital out or it bothers me. It just, you instantly go, all right, where did he go? Yeah, I gotta wait till they come back.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You're there. That would be traumatic if having a conversation with a person, they just disappear.
Yeah, it's literally
and then they come. Yeah, and then they come back and they go, what were you saying? Sorry, where were we?
Yeah.
You go, let's talk about your disappearing. What the fuck was that?
Flow disruption all over the place.
Yeah, it kills.
We need to just break the rules. Really, it comes down to just.
No, you can't do that. That's wrong. Breaking the rules. Nobody should break the rules. Stay home.
By doing
that. I know.
My mask saves my family. Protects my family. I just wonder.
Where's the science behind that?
Yeah, I wonder. I don't even give a fuck about the science. I want to know when retribution comes for that, because you cannot put a sign like that. I don't give a fuck, even if there is science, even if you're like, this is a scientific fact.
That's true.
I don't give a shit.
The message, that how deep that goes.
Masking a child.
So suppose that a child's grandparent does get sick and, God forbid they pass away.
I know.
What is that? What is that child going to internalize? Seeing all this stuff, like, was that my fault? Did I? Did I kill my?
Yeah.
And there's no the message is lost.
Yeah.
Disconnect the elders. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a very, I want to know when
it's like control by any means necessary. Like where's the,
Yeah. So I'm really more like, forget the science. I would like to see like, I wonder when retribution happens. Yeah. Because if all the legal proceedings that they're doing, they're putting them in motion. But then I even wonder with that, because they're postponing, like they've done everything that you're not allowed to do if we're going to claim that we live in a free democratic society, right? I don't recall voting for any of this. I don't recommend voting to begin with, but I don't recall people ever talking about it. Who voted these people in power? Like I know some of the main ones fine, but then you go, everyone else was just elected and whatever else people are just passing the buck around to their friends. I mean, they've broken every rule. So when does... It's hard to just think that it'll all get settled in court.
No, like because the court systems aren't just.
Exactly. Yeah, historically, I don't remember reading in history where it's like this is what changed history. Court case.
Yeah.
So it's
you can't
really
change the system from within the system. Like,
we need to break it down. We need to all disengage.
We're paying attention to what's going on in France, but they're like on the edge of like a coup d'état.
Where the people
military
take over?
Well, the military is acting out. They're like, we can't have any of this.
Yes, that's where you get your power. It's when the cops and the military
are on the side of the people.
Yeah.
That's where it's game over.
Yeah.
Once you have the that's your army, man, your protection. If you get those guys to realize what's wrong, and if they're able to see, but. You can't perform for them anymore. That's the kind of stuff I would definitely talk about to Army veterans and people when I would perform. I would just, but you can't do that. So it's.
But I did see that video of all those Army, I don't know what area they were in, but Army in the U.S. and they're asking, "Hey, are you getting the vaccine?" No.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
None of them.
Yeah, that's just interesting.
Yeah. Jesus. And then we had when those lockdown rules came in, when Doug Ford was like, pull over people to see where they're going, and a lot of police fought against that, saying we're not doing that. And so I feel like we need the cops and we need the military, like as much as like we say it a lot, like fuck the police kind of thing, because when they're just following these orders, I mean, they become like an enemy of the people. Well, but they need to be.
Yeah, they got to protect the people always.
Yeah,
though.
That's their job.
Yeah,
and when this stuff's going to start affecting their own families, and so I think when that starts happening, that's when the switch occurs. Like.
The government is supposed to look out for the people. That's the whole purpose of government.
Yes, that's the idea. Yes, but they're looking out for their own invested interests. So it's hard to, and I guess cops do too. But I think, psychologically we've done a lot too. Because the cops even, remember when it used to just be like slacks and a dress shirt? That was what they wore. And it was like a nice cap. And it was this thing that, it was a light blue shirt. Now the cops are in full military gear. Full, bulletproof everything. They got their gun. They got their taser. It's your perception to the people is a very different image than what even unless that's just what they teach kids. Or like, am I lost? But I remember them being in like regular uniform. They didn't look so militant. Just to be able to, you're getting pulled over by someone that's
Yeah.
It's just...
when we were at the protest last week, we saw, like, there was cops on bikes, like, guiding us, whatever. One cop, and there was not one even, like...
concerning thing.
Concerning incident, nothing. It was all very welcoming and supportive. And the guy's just riding his bike with his hand on his gun. And I'm just like, what? Like, why is that? Like, I'm like, are you scared? Like, it just, because it's like, that's a fear thing. I'm like, what are you scared of? Like, what do you think is going to happen here? You know? It's so crazy. But
they buy into it too. Even at that protest, when we were walking next to this other cop, and he's biking at the same pace as me. So it's hard for me to not just try to engage.
Yeah.
And again, I'm trying to just connect it with people on a human level. So when people can't give me that, it also like, I mean, it's not that it bothers me, but you go, well, what's your fucking problem, right? What do you, so, but I'm there and I'm like, he's there and he keeps kind of like looking over at me. So I just look and I go, hey, have you heard about the thing in the masks that Health Canada came out with about graphene being in the masks that they were giving to school kids? And he goes, no, haven't heard about it. And he's like, just keeping a straight face, black mask, eyeglasses. I have no idea who this is.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I go, yeah, Health Canada released it. So I don't know. You should be able to easily find it. But they said that there's graphene in these masks. They don't even know what it is, but it's really damaging to your breathing. And he's riding a bike. And then he just goes, yeah, I really don't care about any of that. And he just bikes away. And like it was just this attitude where you go, man, what do I give a fuck? I'm not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
What do you think I care?
Yeah.
It doesn't concern me. I was like trying to tell you to sort of concern you about it. And just that whole perception too was like, man, this guy just thinks he's, you think you're the smartest in the room because you hold the badge.
Yeah.
And you're like, you don't know everything. You're just like, you're the guy following the other guy. So it's a weird...
It's very concerning to see a civil servant not to say I don't care.
Yeah,
it's like you don't care. Then why do we appoint you to this position?
Was it the Stanford experiments where they randomly assigned? I don't know if I'm mixing it up with another study, but they randomly assigned. They took a group of young men and randomly assigned some as jailers and some as prisoners.
Yes. And then they just did as their roles told them to do. Yeah.
So they put all their morals aside, and it's just, this is my, this is my job, and never mind that it's amoral.
Yeah.
And then within I think it was a couple days, and within a couple days they all took on to their roles and started really the guards started abusing the prisoners and the prisoners really started acting like it's crazy, like the roles we get put in, and it's so like this false power. Yeah.
Well, that'll be good for a new world, a world without police.
Are you an anarchist?
I
sort of leaning toward.
I think it's such a dangerous label to have, but from the reading I've done politically, I agree with it as a political standpoint. Because a lot of people I think just instantly associate it with what it is, fucking anarchy. Graffiti and I mean, I don't even mind. I think
isn't the concept of anarchism though that there's no centralized government, that it's sort just of like
there's no governing body over the people. The people are free to do as they will, but it's like people are self-governing. So that's what people sort of stop. Like that's where the disconnect happens.
Of self-governance.
Where you go, because communally, if we were a tight-knit community, and somebody showed up to the community, man, we met off-grid people in California. This is even how they worked. They were off-grid. They got their water imported to them. Someone would go out, big tanks, solar-powered everything. If someone shows up and they don't, and if they're disrupting the community, like what you're generally bringing is chaos, they, not dispose them, like they get rid of them from the community. Whether
they shun them.
They try it by, fair warning. And then if it still persists, sometimes they said they've resorted to just burning people's property and just getting them to leave. And you go, and it was a big mix of people. So it's not like it's just this segregated thing. It's like, no, people that just have this idea of freedom, that's what they're after. Anybody who comes to disrupt that, you just sort of, that's how people are. You kind of have to, you sort of got to fit in to an extent, right? You in every game you play, you have to go by some rules. So if you go, well, if this is the community that you want to be a part, it self-governs. You don't need to pay someone to go, hey, make sure that all these people are taken care of, and and then that guy, it's because you become like a Randall. Stems.
From a Randall, like from Recess. If you're familiar, it's like the tattletale, right? And then everyone kind of hates on that person, and not even because of the task they're given or the job they're given, which is like, it's not really their fault or anything like that, but it's like, now we're all like, oh, that's the guy who's gonna get us in shit, like, you know. Yeah. And so you're like, how is that a healthy position? Or like, you know, you're not part of the community because you're almost at a higher standard where you're like tattling, like, hey, look, you're like the rat, right? So it's, I don't know, like, it seems healthier to cut that out.
Well, I mean, the government just looks after themselves. Like, yeah, because capitalism isn't a form of government. Like, people should be free. There is a need for market, I guess. Right, like people need some sort of thing to have,
some kind of bartering or trading.
Yeah, yeah, because it's inevitable. Yeah, it's inevitable if you go and travel,
it will end up.
Yeah,
something will evolve.
Wherever you go anywhere in the world, you go, well, I don't know what these people know, and they know how to grow incredible mangoes. So you go, I would like some of those. Trade is inevitable. Yeah. So I feel like commerce is not escapable. I think it's a natural progression. I think it strives us to do better and seek for more in a positive way. But I feel like once something shows up to start governing that and go, well, okay, you can only do this so much, and you can only, because that's where I feel like historically, usually it was always the people that spoke. If the kings were out of control, the people would revolt. And so that was the kind of game you had to play. How do I make sure these people are just, you know, doing enough to let me do whatever I want to do? Yeah. And then, you know, keep them quiet while you run amok. But then there were also times where there were philosopher kings that people were just like, we like what you bring to the society, what you bring to the community. So, you know, give us guidance, I guess. You know, what do we do to strive for better? Yeah. And I think we were able to have times where we've achieved that. So hopefully we can.
And I think that all comes back to like our elders, because our elders used to be our teachers and the people who would really govern us, because they'd be like, hey, you're acting out of hand here, or, you know, smack you up a bit. And now we've totally devalued that whole area of our lives. And so
now
we don't
smack
have
around the elders.
Yeah. But at the same time, I remember speaking to somebody, I think he might think he was from China, but he was talking about, I told him, you know, I said, like, one thing that I really respect about Eastern culture is that it seems that there's a lot of reverence for the elders. And he said, yeah, that can be a positive and a negative, because sometimes people will abuse that position. You know what I mean? Like, you need to respect your elders.
Be an idiot.
Right.
Or,
yes.
you know, or abusive in some kind of way, right?
Yeah.
So true.
That's true too. Yeah. Yes, that's very true. So you got to be careful. How do we do it? How do we perfect the system? Fuck.
I think we just kind of have to have faith that things are going to fall into place the way that they're supposed to. You know, that's what kind of where I'm at.
So you think? So are you totally cool with it? You think everybody's going to come to light with this PCR stuff and the numbers game?
No. No.
Okay.
No, I don't think we're ever going to be all on the same page, but I think that things are just going to progress the way that they're naturally going to progress, you know, whatever that looks like, and we kind of have to be prepared to accept whatever that is. You know, I mean, and just continue to walk in your truth, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, you can have conversations with people, you can connect with them, but you're not going to change anybody. And to be honest, I don't know whether that should be the goal, to change anybody. That's like a kind of manipulative, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Not change, but fuck,
just
man.
like break them out of a hypnosis.
Yeah, crack them out of the shell. Yeah. I think that's more of what it is.
Yeah.
Because if you break everybody out of their shell, everybody's got a song to contribute to the.
I mean, this
is the musical.
This is not a new issue, though.
Yeah.
You know, I think we have, you know, should and have always encouraged people to be as aware as possible, as conscious as possible, and to strive to reach their highest potential. And this is just an example of how disconnection can get us into trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is just like one example. There is so much malaise all over different parts of the world, and I'll bet you there's different countries looking at this being like, "What? This is no big deal. We're in like the middle of a
Of course, we've
been
seen
war
much
torn
worse.
for
I feel like we're as a country we're very soft historically.
But that's also I think because we've kind of been in a bit of a bubble, relatively speaking. I think it makes it difficult. Like when something goes off, not most people will just trust. They'll be trusting.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Because it's like, well, the government's never really done me wrong before, so why should I believe that they would?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you start looking and it's like, okay, why are all the governments doing
the same thing?
Exact same things,
and
not stuff backed by science or
that to me is where it really starts to feel
maybe psychology as a science.
It starts to feel more of a play sometimes for me. Like I'm truly observing a play that someone bigger than us is watching. Not like we are intergalactic television for something else to go like, man, you see what these people are doing? Look, everybody's stuck in their house. Everybody's just doing this. And these guys are tricking everything.
It's like, never mind outside of the planet, like another species of animal.
Yeah.
I joke all the time, like, what are those pigeons thinking of us, like walking around with our masks?
I mean, the dogs the dogs are seeing us masked up and shit, and just, we're picking up their shit, wearing masks. It's like, man, the dogs.
Like we put the muzzle on ourselves. Yeah. They're like, what suckers? Yeah.
Man, what did these guys do?
Other animal species are like, these people just need to chill. You know what I mean? Like things are gonna just happen the way they're gonna happen. Like,
exactly.
It's like, why are they giving so much power to these few people? And
I know. Well, I guess it's because they took the power away from everybody else. That's where they gave themselves.
How did they take it away?
Well, I mean, you took away live performance. I think that was crucial for keeping people.
Did we allow them to do that though?
To an extent.
You know what I'm saying?
To an extent.
Yeah.
I mean,
we gave our power away.
We're just like, nah, we're not shutting anything down, and we're.
No, I know. I've broken most all the rules. I've traveled the country. I've gone through the checkpoints. You see the way that they crank the machine out. It's very interesting.
So you would be what they would call a super spreader.
Listen, you know what? I've gone on those deep thought journeys of thinking like, man, could you imagine if I was the one that started this whole thing? Like, you know what I mean? And I was good the whole time. I never knew, right? I was I fit the entire quality. And I go, what if it was? Because then I look at the case out and I go, wow. Was I there? I go, well, maybe I spent some time there. I knew some people there. I go, man, maybe I did it all.
You know that this is the first time in the history of respiratory airborne illnesses where asymptomatic individuals have been responsible for spreading.
Really?
Well,
biggest
Dr. Fauci at the beginning of this said, never in the history of respiratory airborne illnesses have asymptomatic individuals been responsible for outbreaks. Like pretty much verbatim, he said that. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently this is the first time ever where asymptomatic, except that they say that the PCR test is not accurate if you're asymptomatic and not in contact. So I just have questions.
The one thing I do hope, like if I fantasize, if I have fun with the fantasy, if I go away from the doom and gloom, because some of it seems it's very comic bookish too, right? Like you're injecting all these people with these different things, trying to give them all these different like activate their superpower. So it's like to me, it's maybe there's some hope that people are we're going to start mutating and taking this thing to a whole new level. There's going to be like organic humans with superpowers, and there's going to be like weird injected people with superpowers. And it's because even when I think about it, when you talk about like the serum and what's in. Every time you go, it's a code, it's a thing. Who's the
Right.
Who's the hacker?
Code master.
Who's the guy coding? You know, I've never met this guy. We've never seen him talk on television. Who's the one making the code and changing the code in my operating system? You know, that's a weird. But I don't know. I guess I've been under, you know, the drug program surveillance.
Yeah, I wonder how much of our DNA's already been altered by like the shots we got when we were born, like without even, you know, our say.
What if they disconnected a lot of our superpowers and now we're just finally getting to them? That would be exciting to me. That's something for me to look forward to go like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel and we can fly.
Yeah, we totally can.
Shoot laser beams and shit.
It's all in your mind. You can alter your own DNA just as much as you can, you know, with CRISPR and all that shit. It's like
how come
you can do that with your own mind.
Yeah, you can.
You know, you don't need these shots. You don't need science. It's like you are your own.
Yeah, your own laboratory.
Yeah, transcriptomics.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, I don't know how long we've gone. I think we've broken 2 hours.
Yeah, we've gone through quite a bit.
I guess we'll end it there. Thank you for you know, being on this and
thanks for
bringing
having
us the heat. It was cool.
Getting me into trouble.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's nothing really to worry about.
After this.
There's very little to worry about.
I'm not a scientist anymore. So
No. Yeah, you're going to be
I got nothing
disbarred.
Lucy. I just make music.
Yeah.
Can they take away your PhD?
Well, to be fair, it's a master's degree.
It's a master's degree. Sorry, I always get it.
We're about to find out, aren't we?
Yeah. Okay. So what do you want to, you know, put a message out if anybody, you know, if they let this release all the way through, if they let all this information out, you want to tell people anything? Where can they reach you? Do you have an album coming out?
Yeah, I have. I actually got a grant to produce an album, so the deadline to release it is August 31st, so it has to be out by the 31st of August.
Okay, cool.
The project's called Love Money. Yeah.
Good things to put out there.
Yeah, I have a couple singles out right now. I did like a top right to a DJ Jazzy Jeff beats. Okay. So that I put that out, and then I put out something a little bit more experimental because I've been playing around with production a bit this year, taking past samples of me playing and playing some new stuff and adding layers of vocals and different organic sounds. So I've got, you know, a couple tracks, a little bit of variety, and then I have an album coming out at the end of August. So
that's amazing. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Can't wait to check it out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, thank you so much for having us, and that's
yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being a guest.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Okay.